Good morning and welcome to Cheche, the show where opinion counts, live on Citizen TV. I'm your host, Udwa Kamimo. The National Assembly this afternoon is scheduled to debate a bill on the implementation of the two-thirds gender principle. You might remember that there were different bills suggesting various ways of complying with the Constitution. These followed a Supreme Court opinion that mandated a mechanism for compliance by August of last year, 2015. What's before the National Assembly now is the technical working group version, which is based on the county assembly model. Today's guests believe in the cause of gender-affirming action, but not necessarily on how to achieve parity. We have Winnie Lichuma, the chair of the Gender and Equality Commission, and Ken Okoth, the ODM Member of Parliament for Kibra. And as always, we have the regular panel of Mutegin Jao and David Makali. Good morning and welcome to Cheche.
Good morning.
To begin with, some background to help us locate the context for this afternoon's debate. There was the August 25th, 2015 deadline. It was extended. Then what happened? Winnie, bring us up to speed.
Thank you, Udwak. I think let me begin by saying as a country we've made very great strides in terms of inclusion. The Constitution 2010 does provide for the principle of equality and inclusion, and when we take statistics of how we are doing as a country, we clearly find that in terms of inclusion, gender inclusion, in education we are doing very well. In terms of women accessing sexual reproductive health, we are doing well. In terms of access to labor, of course there's still a bit of some struggle, but in education is one area where we almost are getting to the parity. But political representation has been a challenge for this country ever since independence. So when we had the two-thirds gender rule provided for within the Constitution, there was no mechanism provided on how we get to realize this in the National Assembly and in the Senate. Courtesy of Article 177, 1B of the Constitution, we were able to meet the two-thirds gender rule in the county assembly. So county assemblies as currently constituted make a third of either gender. And the either gender, of course, the less changed gender in political representation has been women, and there will be women for quite a long time. Now, we had the Attorney General move the court to seek that this be postponed so that it's not applicable in the 2013 election. The court then gave a deadline of August 2015. The Attorney General set a technical working group, which I was privileged to chair. It brought on board all the technical stakeholders, IBC, CIC as then it was, CAJ, that is the Ombudsman, the Office of the Attorney General, the Parliament, and the women parliamentarians. And we began to look at a process of getting a formula, because looking at Article 97 that provides for membership of the National Assembly, it provides for the membership 290 elected from the constituency, 47 women elected from the counties, and 12 nominated seats. Currently as constituted, we managed to get 16 women elected out of the 290. Then we have the 47 women, and we only managed 5 of the nominated seats. So the total number of women in that house is 68. Ordinarily, the two-thirds gender rule then would have expected that we would have 117 women. So there is no mechanism on how we get those women. County assemblies, the mechanism is clear. After we put the number together of the ward representatives, then we give a third of the missing gender by nomination using the closed political party list. We don't have a similar section in 97. 98, similarly, for the senators, you know that we elected 0 women senators, but courtesy of the law within that same Article 98, it provides for 16 women to be elected, again using the closed political party list, and then we have 1 woman, 1 man with disability, 1 man, 1 woman from the youth. So we currently now have 18 women. In the Senate, we fall short of 5 senators to give us the third. So the proposal was, can we use a mechanism that already worked? It worked in the county assemblies. We have the numbers there. So if we just lifted and said, encourage women and men to run for the constituencies, the missing number, let's come and nominate them from the political party lists. That is the situation as we stand now. Honorable Duale then was kind enough to take the bill and publish it. But what the bill now does, on top of adding the number, it goes further and says a woman who enjoys this special seat can only enjoy it for 2 terms. So we cannot have perennial members.
Was it 1 or 2 terms?
I mean, you once and then you go another 1 round. So you can only have it for 2 terms. And after 2 terms, we are thinking the affirmative action must have prepared you to go to a constituency and seek to be elected. And 2, that affirmative action cannot be forever. There must be a sunset clause. So this bill now introduces the sunset clause, which it caps at 20 years. That after 20 years, that is 4 election cycles as a country, we must have prepared the women now to go and seek political seats without any affirmative action.
Okay,
so that's what we have.
Thank you. Now, Ken, you were one of the people who had a different bill for envisaging implementation. Where was that coming from? Tell us about that.
I think the only difference there is, first of all, let us talk about the principle of inclusion. In the Senate and the National Assembly, we didn't have a mechanism, as Commissioner Lichuma has said. In the county assemblies, we have Article 177 of the Constitution that expressly says if a county assembly is only male or not enough women, there is a top-up mechanism, and before the county assembly is sworn in, the women have to be added from the nominated party list. That does not exist automatically for the National Assembly. So what I thought myself and a group of others in what's called the Green Amendment campaign was, we believe in the same thing, but let us insist on a mechanism where the women run for election, like the way the 47 are currently elected. So create a specification, maybe elect 2 per county or 3 per county, but they actually are selected by the citizens in a vote. They campaign for it rather than being appointed through party lists. Today, that's not relevant. Today we must get to Parliament and pass what is available, because 2017 elections are already here with us. So what matters today is the bill on the table is what we're discussing, and I'm supporting what Honorable Lichuma and Duale have brought to Parliament. Let us vote for it today. There must be political will, because we've already wasted enough time, a whole year, to get here. And I'm afraid if today we don't pass it, this is a bill that still has to go to the Senate. So if Parliament goes on recess for a whole month and this bill hasn't been passed and it hasn't gone to the Senate, it's really unfair to the women. It's in the Constitution, it's not a favor, it's a right, and all parliamentarians must be told it's your duty, do the right thing, stand on the side of history, let the women also get their chance to participate in Kenya's leadership.
Okay, so we'll come to political will and various other things in a minute, but David, I think you wanted to...
Yeah, I mean, obviously there were other proposals contesting against the one that is now...
And we've just talked about that.
Being carried forward. No. There's a proposal where somebody said that instead of topping up after the election to achieve the 1/3, that the current seats, the numbers, we have the 290 elected, and then we just have 100 straight seats that are going to be filled by way of the same nomination system, which to me is still quite a good proposal to cut on the numbers. I don't know why Winnie and the caucus that she heads did not think this was a worthy proposal, and when it has really collapsed.
Okay, so let me rephrase that question to be fair to Mr. Okoth's point of view. Ms. Lichuma, this model, how did you arrive at seeing that this county-based model was the best, given that you had the Green Amendment and the one that David talks about? I think that was pushed by Augustino Neto?
Yes. And we even had more. Yeah. We even had people suggesting, why don't we double or triple the 47, so that straight away you triple the 47, you get 151 members. Cool. You don't need to have any other formula. The 100, David, the 100 number was an arbitrary number. But still, even if you brought the 100, you would not meet the principle. The principle is that there must be 2/3 at any sitting of a public place. For example, even the cabinet appointment, really, you know that we fell short of the 1/3. So it is not about the numerical numbers, it's about the percentage 1/3. So if we went by having 100 women nominated, that would mean that we would forever never have women getting into the 290 seats. I'll tell you this. In 2013, I went around this country, every part. And why we didn't get the numbers, it was very clear. The men decampaigned the women, saying, these women have their seats. Why are they coming in the 290? But on inclusion and equality, we want to see both men and women going out for the 290 and being elected. But if we begin by zoning the women and saying these are only women...
My suggestion is not to say that women will not contest in the 290. They will contest among the 290. And if you get 15 or 20 among the 290, then you have straight 100 or so, plus the county women representatives, which will top up the numbers. So that, if we go by just this 349 or whatever the numbers are, plus, if we fall short of the 1/3, then you add whatever number that comes. The situation we've had in the county assemblies is not very comfortable. We have teams of representatives in these assemblies, so that the National Assembly could as well hit 450 members to 500 by this method that we are about to pass today, which is my concern.
David, the method we are saying today is self-revolving. It's self-revolving in a way that if tomorrow, 2017, Kenyans were to decide that we are doing away with the men and we are electing the women, the men would benefit from it. Because I think let's also look at it that it will not forever be the women seeking to come in. And so if we begin by setting
it's almost obvious.
It's not obvious, David.
I mean, you said it, that it will continue to be so.
Give this country another 3-4 elections, you will be surprised. You will be surprised. Women will come up, the men will be seeking to come in. So the formula we are suggesting is not a female-only formula. It's a very neutral formula. Should the tides change, then the men can use it also to be nominated.
So the bill is one aspect of this. Are there any other provisions or mechanisms you're pursuing to achieve this 2/3 principle?
Yes, there are many other mechanisms, but sadly, again, the parliamentarians last week, in debating the Political Parties Act, and Ken is here to tell us, threw out some of them. Because we looked at the barriers. What are the barriers that make women not really come out and seek to be voted? One was the resources. And we said, and this I think we were supported by the legal committee, they said, Winnie, why don't we have some resources set aside for those serious candidate women who want to run, so that it gives them a push to do the election. Another one we said, in presenting the political party list, because we need to begin at the political party's entry, because they decide who comes to parliament. How can we make political parties responsive in a manner that they give the women room to run? Because looking at the statistics of 2013, the number of women who were given a chance to run equals those that got elected in. So if parties were to give us 50-50, 50 men, 50 women in their lists of the candidates running in primaries, I take the view that more women would come in. So that one was rejected by the Political Parties Act, that women must go and fight it out. We also said when we present our list, can we begin with the female? Because we are doing a zebra list, male, female, male, female. Currently as constituted, we only got 5 nominated out of the 12. Reason being, IBC cannot tamper with the list. But if we begin with the women, so if a party, my party, ODM, let me use for example, is not my party, but let me use a life party. If ODM were to be told you have 1 slot, and if they have begun their presentation by giving us a woman first, then there are high chances that a woman would be nominated. That was equally thrown out. So really, as women of this country, we look at our men and we are thinking, these are our brothers, the ones who want to run are your mothers, your sisters. So what is the issue really? Because we are saying, even if we don't get the nomination, can we have the resources to run? And we are told no. Can we find a political party mechanism that gives us room to want to run?
Let's allow Ken to respond to whatever you wanted to come in.
Yeah, I want to ask this party list, where you have a list of women to be nominated. There was a complaint that those women will not be the most qualified women, but relatives or girlfriends or wives of the politician, or the main politician in the party list. Is that
that complaint has been there, and that's why I would be referring to Article 90 of the Constitution that says IBC must supervise the political party lists. IBC has taken the view that they cannot get into the primaries of political parties. I have numerous letters. I took IBC to court after the 2013 election, if you remember. But I've still insisted that IBC must put sanity in political parties so that they supervise how those lists are done. Clearly so, they may be girlfriends, I do not know. They may be, yes, I know, like in the county assemblies, there's a county where two relatives got themselves on the list and they're sitting members of the county assemblies. And that's a reason that should worry IBC and political parties. How can we make the political party nomination competitive so that I and Udwak run, and I know that Udwak is number 1 and number 2, and if the party had an opportunity to nominate one person,
but the current law is that the lists are actually generated before those nominations, because anybody who is on the list should not be running. So what we're going to have is people discouraged from competitive politics, to sit back and lobby to get on the list.
No, I mean getting to form those lists must itself be competitive. The Article 90, if you read it, David, it says political parties in the and that is Article 177, 97, and 98, that gives room for nomination. If you check Article 90 of the Constitution, it's clear that political parties in forming those lists must be supervised by IBC. Currently, as we are talking tomorrow and Friday, because of pressure, IBC has put a technical team together to begin to look at the process of nominations, and they are going to come up with very strict regulations that parties must comply.
Mutegi, I'd like to ask your question back to you, because you say that the lists are influenced by cronyism in whatever form.
Those complaints have been made.
Those complaints, but doesn't that happen with men as well? The president is accused of appointing his friends to various boards and whatever public offices exist. So your question seems to suggest that when it comes to women, there should be a different standard.
No. When the president appoints, and those appointments are verified by Parliament. But when it comes to nominations, nobody else is the party which decides. What she's saying, IBC does not involve itself. So the party chairman and their friends would nominate those people they want.
Because there's no accountability.
There's no accountability. But when the president appoints, they are taken to Parliament.
And that's the point, that in competitive politics, elective politics, we need to reduce as much as possible people who are not coming into office through nomination processes that are less than transparent. Whether it's male or female, the population of people in office who have not contested ought to be at the bare minimum. And this is not going to encourage it. If you're going to have people waiting, knowing they can land on the list through other networking or just working for the party, whatever methods they use to get on the list.
Okay, so do come in, because I think your amendment tried to address this problem.
Yes. Well, this is it's a little frustrating for me, because I'm thinking now the discussion we are having versus the big job we have in the afternoon, a special moment to pass the bill. So I'd say that in the Green Amendment campaign we had two formulas. One is when people concern themselves, and Makali hinted to this, to the size of Parliament. Can we make it smaller? Is it too big? Do we run a risk of making it too big? We made a proposal to make Parliament smaller, reduce the constituencies back to the original 210, and then have women elected, 2 per county, the way you elect 47 right now. So instead of having 1 women rep for Nairobi, Honorable Shebesh, you could have 2. Maybe Honorable Udwak and Honorable Shebesh, elected by the people, not nominated by a party on favoritism or things. Give the sovereignty back to the people. The Budget Committee in Parliament refused and rejected that, saying there's no way. And remember, if it's any bill that involves money, the Budget Committee decides whether it proceeds or not. And it's clearly said, if you're reducing the size of Parliament, we refuse. And we say, okay, here's another formula, how to increase the size of Parliament and meet this formula by citizen choice. So any woman who will walk through that parliament, even if it's on what is called an affirmative action seat, will not have been sent by a party, but will have been sent by voters from a certain constituency or region in the country. So that has been the debate, and we've tried to push this bill through parliament, but they have not moved through pre-application status. So we have another way to amend the constitution, which is Article 257, which allows you to go to citizens and collect signatures. So I think today in the afternoon, there is a moment to pass the bill that Honorable Commissioner Lichuma and Honorable Duale have fronted. It is a good bill. I want to say that. I will support it fully, and I'll lobby other members to support it. If it fails, it will be very sad and regrettable, but we must have a plan B, even if it means collecting signatures, and the women of this country must wake up, because if you want to make steps ahead, the people who are oppressing you and keeping you out of the table won't freely let you come in. You must struggle, you must push, you must fight for your space. And if that means collecting signatures, let us be ready to collect those signatures. What is the next phase?
Just a minute, before you get to that, because there are other mechanisms on the table. Your own colleagues failed to pass them. I read the Hansard. Honorable Cheche put forward this special fund. The Assembly, the House, rejected it. What does that say, though, about the likely fate of this bill this afternoon?
Let me start with what was rejected, which Commissioner Lichuma mentioned. There was a provision that one of the facts that if you really want women to participate in politics in the Kenyan context, politics costs a lot of money. We need to look in general, how do we reduce the cost of participating in politics in Kenya? It costs way too much, and you have to ask yourself, where are the people getting the money from? Illicit sources possibly, and what are their purposes for spending all that money that they can't account for? What will they do once they get in there? What interests will they pursue? But nevertheless, because even young people, people with disabilities, don't have the money to get into politics compared to traditionally the men in Kenya. It's not just the women. So the fund that Honorable Cheche had proposed in the political parties amendment was to make sure that parties that nominate women, that succeed in helping their women to campaign successfully and win, would be given more money when you're dividing money for political parties, to create a more vibrant women's wing and bring more people. And this system actually works in the United Kingdom. If you go to Britain, they don't have the 2/3 threshold. They haven't reached 30%. They're in the range of 22 to 24% in the United Kingdom. And to make sure that the parties in Britain, and this has only happened in the last 25, 30 years, it's not history that they've always had women in the British Parliament, as many as you think today. They had to come up with a rule like that, and they have regulations, and the parties, as they are funded also there's a special fund for women, and depending on how many women they've already got in. So I think it was a missed opportunity. I regret, but that's how Parliament works. People put things to a vote, and I hope that we would actually be having party positions. It was interesting to hear Honorable Cheche, Chair of Legal Committee from Jubilee side, fronting what is ostensibly a committee position, a government position, yet members of Jubilee opposing it, saying, no, if you give women money, they'll have more money than us. But, for what purpose? Bringing them in, it's money that can be accounted for, and giving parties that are more women-friendly more money as a national principle. Again, this is not just some liberal Western thinking. This is in the Kenyan Constitution, the principle of inclusivity and fairness, and bringing in the marginalized, and women have been marginalized in politics, young people have been marginalized, people with disabilities, minorities. You put in special mechanisms to level the playing field. That's called equity and equitability. We need to do something about that. Okay,
very quickly, David, we've got to take a break, but I think you wanted to follow up on this point?
No, it's okay. I'm just not supporting
But maybe on nomination not work. I think let's also not paint nomination to be very bad. His Excellency the President, his debut in Parliament was through nomination. Is he a bad leader? Seth Mbarire first came in as a nominated member. Now she went for it. Millie Odhiambo the other day came in as nominated. So clearly, I think let's also be fair to the nomination as an exercise. And maybe just to correct what I'm saying, Article 90, if implemented rightly, would work. It would mean people seeking to go on the nomination list go through a competitive process before the list is formulated. I think
during the break, we'll just do mathematics and see if the scale stand as they are, the current representation in the House, then if this bill passes, what will be the total number of MPs we'll expect in the next House, to look at it pragmatically.
Exactly.
Two, I don't think that even giving opportunity for somebody to be nominated twice is something we should allow.
But we also need to quote the Institute of Economic Affairs report and study that showed the National Assembly is the smallest branch of government, and the cost of representation, oversight and legislation is very value for money. Adding even if you added the most number of MPs, you're talking about maybe 112 at the extreme, the largest, the cost would be 1 extra shilling a day for every Kenyan. We have to ask ourselves if that is good value for money in our system of government. For a 2 trillion economy, is it worth it to have a parliament that costs only 1 or 2% of that budget to do the important functions of the legislature?
Okay, and so thank you for setting up the conversation after the break. This is Cheche. We're live on Citizen TV. Will the National Assembly pass the 2/3 gender principle bill? Our SMS number is 22422, or you can tweet us using the hashtag Cheche.